This is a podcast where we learn how to balance life and
No,
law.
Chrissy, that is Bob's intro.
Oh, that's where I got it.
Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by Chrissy Hagen, and we talked about valuing cases. We talked about Santana. Her father was part of the band, and Chrissy didn't know that my favorite song from them would be Maria. We talked about parenting, going from owning a law firm to working at a law firm. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode.
Well, my claim to fame is my dad used to play in Santana.
What?
Isn't that crazy?
No.
Yeah, so my maiden name's Gyarmati, so Gyarmati, this crazy name. And that's how people at school would find out that my dad played in Santana, as they'd buy CDs at the store, and it would say Tibor Gyarmati, and like, what kind of name is that?
So he was part of the band.
Yeah,
like
he was in the band. And so his name was on the CD, and they're like, is this your dad? I was like, so embarrassed. I'm like, yes.
Embarrassed. Like, I would have been like, yes, it is.
Yeah, that was little then. He went to high school with the drummer, I think it was, in Cleveland. So this is back in the 70s, obviously way before I was born. And I just remember...
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Or when he played, it was also way before I was born, is what I meant to say. But yeah, he played bass guitar.
She's not that old, guys.
And I can probably find a photo for you. So every time Santana was in town, though, when I was like, how old would I have been? 6, 7, 8, and that age, they would always bring us up on stage.
How cool.
I know. It was cool. And I was kind of a brat about it, though, because I didn't like Santana's music.
Yeah, why would
And
you?
everyone would be like,
you were little.
You don't like Santana? Like,
I only know one song of theirs.
I know.
Can you guess what song it is?
Black Magic Woman?
Maria.
Oh, duh. That's a good one. I mean, I appreciate it now. Looking back, I'm like, that was pretty cool.
Wait, what are their other songs?
So Black Magic Woman is one that my dad loves. But then they went through this like phase where they'd have like collaborations like with Lauryn Hill. I think she did a song with them.
I don't remember any of that.
The guy from Matchbox 20.
Great episode, by the way.
I feel like at this point I can do your intro since I've listened to every episode. You know what? Your daughter did it the best, though.
Aww,
she was so cute.
Wasn't she okay? Try it.
Let's see. This is a podcast where we learn how to balance life and law. I'm your host, Maria Monroy.
You're so far off.
I know. How am I so far off if I've literally listened to every single episode?
I don't know. All I can tell you is that for a long time, a very long time, I would forget it.
I'm surprised you record it every time, which I just learned, behind the scenes. I thought you'd have standard recording that just plays.
No, because we want the sound to sound the same. So when you record in different rooms, the sound bounces off differently. Sometimes I don't do it the same day, and then you will hear that it jumps, like the background sound is different. And that's when I got lazy. And when we forget to do it sometimes. And then Matt gets in a lot of trouble. And then I get like 1,000 emails from him of, I need the intro, outro.
Love it.
Yeah. Alrighty, Chrissy Hagen. Did I pronounce it correct?
You did.
Cool. Yes. You're my number one fan.
I am.
I know.
It's me. Hi. I'm the fan.
I know. You're the one download.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No, I love your posts, your podcast, and the clips you post on social. Definitely your biggest fan.
Okay, what's your favorite episode?
Oh my gosh. I think it has to be the one with Ed talking about spaghetti sauce.
Really?
Yeah. And then I remember
you texted us.
I texted you. Learn how to make it. I agree it's hard.
Did it come out? Mine didn't.
Okay. Yeah, mine didn't. I won't lie.
I'm starting to think he's full of shit.
It was like chunks of tomatoes. There was no sauce. I was like, what did I do?
So I think that next time we're all in a city where somebody lives, we need to use their kitchen and record a podcast while Ed is like teaching me how to do it, or Jay or someone.
Yes. Great.
But like, so maybe when, I don't know if we ever overlap in Vegas again, maybe I'll ask, maybe Sean Claggett will let us do it.
Yeah.
I feel like he would.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I need to see this in person, how you make this sauce.
I need a picture. I think it's like salad, like tomato salad with pasta, and he's just eating the tomatoes. Like,
yes. Or he's pranking us. He's like saying it's so easy and really he knows it's super hard and that we would never do it right.
Maybe we're getting the wrong tomatoes. But okay, give us your background.
Yeah. So I'm a trucking twin mom, I guess is my new, slogan I just came up with just now.
Really?
So mom of twins, but specialize in trucking wrecks. I am a native Michigander is what we're called.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but have turned into like a Coloradan for 10 years and then came back to Michigan when we had twins.
Okay. Why'd you move back? When did you move back to Michigan?
So I moved back right before the pandemic, actually.
I thought you were in Colorado. So you've always been in Michigan?
Well, that's what's so weird is having this like identity crisis because I still was acting like a Colorado lawyer in Colorado because I thought this is pre-pandemic, right? And the virtual.
So it was like a secret?
Kind of, yeah.
I did that when we first moved to Mexico.
Really?
I totally know exactly.
It's a horrible feeling.
Because you're literally like, I think I was in denial. So we moved.
Same. I'm like, did I really move? I'm obsessed with Colorado.
Like we moved and like I was like going back and forth a lot. So I was like more like, oh, we're going back and forth. My kids are enrolled in school. Yes. It's like clearly like at some point.
Yeah.
When I told people that I moved to Mexico City, what was missed in that whole thing was that I was in Guadalajara for like almost 2 years and no one knew.
Yes, that's like, crazy. That's how I was.
I literally, I don't know. I don't know why. I think it was a lot of things. Like,
yeah. So we found out we were pregnant, and we thought it was one the whole time, and then for some reason, like the thought of two just freaked us out, kind of, and we're like, should we move back? Like twins are a little bit different. We don't really have any family out here in Colorado. We're both from Michigan. Our siblings are in Michigan. Our parents are in Michigan. Grandparents, and so that's what made us move back.
Are you happy?
And I'm happy for sure, but it was weird because I remember walking into my boss at the time like fully expecting to quit, and he's like, well, we have to find a way to keep you, like you can work from Michigan. I was like, I can work from Michigan, like in Colorado? It's pre-pandemic, that was unheard of. And then I started going stir crazy in my house, and I'm like, this sucks, like everyone's together, I'm back in Michigan. And then the pandemic hits and I was like, oh, wow, this is the best thing ever. I get to just work from my house. I already have a full office set up. But then, doing what we do, it's a lot of client interaction. And I think you have to go to your clients' homes. You have to see how they live their life every day to really get to understand who they are and what's been taken from them and how things are different to be able to tell their story. And I was constantly flying back to Colorado for that.
So now are you just practicing in Michigan?
Yeah, but I'll take Colorado cases. I still get referred cases from Colorado, like dog bite and trucking cases mostly. And trucking requires more hands-on stuff to go back. But sometimes it's a case that we could send a demand and get resolved even like without having to go back.
But you have your own firm now.
So I did have my own firm, and
Not
now
anymore.
I joined with a firm in Michigan, correct?
Okay, well, we have to talk offline.
Yeah.
Or online, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. What made you decide to do that?
Yeah, it was the identity crisis. Honestly, it was that I'm such a social person, as you know.
Yeah.
And so I'd be going to all these networking things in Michigan, and it was kind of weird. People would be like, where do you practice? And I'm like, well, in Colorado. And it just got too weird for me because I felt like I was always pretending that I lived in Colorado.
Couldn't you have started a firm in Michigan or added a Michigan component to your Colorado firm?
I could have, but the law is so different. It's so nuanced. So Michigan's a no-fault state, which Florida is, right?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Essentially, if you're in a crash, regardless of who's at fault, you go through your own insurance company. Whereas in Colorado, it's a fault state. And so if someone hits you, it's a third-party case. And then if there's not enough coverage, then you can go through your own.
California is like that, no?
Yes. Okay. I believe so. Mm-hmm.
So in Florida, I didn't even know any of
so different.
Wow, you think I would learn
There's different caps and different laws.
Well, I know that, but I didn't know the whole.
But it's hard to keep up with it. And I was kind of juggling both for a while until
So now it's just Michigan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Primarily.
I just market in Michigan and just.
And now you joined a firm.
Michigan. Yes. Who does a lot of nursing home. And so I've.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And I was like literally starting to think like, is she talking about the past? Or am I in a matrix where like she never had this firm?
Oh my gosh.
I literally was
funny.
thinking that.
So funny.
So what has it been like going from owning your, because everybody talks about what it's like going from not owning your firm to owning your firm.
Yeah. So I learned after having worked for many different law firms that it's really about the people you work with. And I think that I can be happy anywhere I enjoy the people I work with. Um, and the ability to work on cases I enjoy working on. So when I joined the firm, it was with people I already knew and loved and I'm friends with. And they gave me so much autonomy. They love that I'm still doing trucking. And to answer your question, I think it's really important to just make sure you have a good brand yourself. Like Sarah Williams is the epitome of this, right?
Yep.
And I'm trying to do that more because it is different going from, like anything I posted at my last firm was me and the firm. And so, here there's a little bit of a disconnect where it's like, I want to post all about this trucking stuff still, but that's not necessarily the brand our firm has. So how do I, kind of reconcile the two is I just make sure I have a good personal brand and I use my personal social media more now.
Got it. And is it also easier that you don't have like the admin day to day?
Oh my God. Never been more stressed in my life than I was running a law firm. I think I had like a couple mental breakdowns.
I'm not surprised.
So it is nice to not have that sort of pressure because you still have the pressures of your cases. And like Grant was talking about, you absorb a lot of that stress and you're empathizing with them and you're feeling their pain. And, you're like reliving all of this stuff over and over. I mean, every case we work on is super sad, right? We don't have happy cases. Clients don't come to us when something good's happen.
Yeah.
So it's challenging. And then to have that on top of running a firm is just a lot.
I mean, I think I say this on so many episodes. I said it today. I don't remember with who, but running a firm is so hard. Being a trial lawyer is so hard. Doing both is and doing it well. It's just a lot.
Yes.
It's just a lot. I mean, I don't think that leaves time for really much else. And you have two 5-year-old girls. That's a lot right there.
Right. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot. But
I always
it sounds
think
like you're happy.
Yeah. I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy who I work with. I enjoy being able to meet with my clients in person.
But what about money?
Without flying. Money. That's the thing is I think if you have the right structure with the firm you join and basically, the sky's the limit as far as cases I bring in, percentage of fees that way. And then, it's like the more cases I settle, the more I make. And
right. But then there's no infrastructure of I get a piece of the whole.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
But I guess you guys were still pretty new. It's not like you had 10 lawyers generating for you yet. So it probably doesn't feel like much of a change, but long term.
Yeah, long term.
Do you think you'll start a firm again one day?
Maybe. It's not something I've ruled out. It is interesting. I learned a ton. I learned so much from running my own firm that I can still implement in my practice now, such as, managing people. And we did a lot of business coaching. And so I'm always trying to be as efficient as possible. Deciding which cases I take on, things like that.
Yeah.
It still applies whether you're running a firm or not.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm still doing trucking, but one thing that's been kind of interesting is I work for a firm that specializes in medical malpractice and nursing home neglect. And it's been really interesting. It's been an interesting perspective coming in because they all are familiar with these cases and know what they settle for. And, there's a standard value, just like I would be in a trucking case. And it's so interesting because I come in and I'm like, this bed sore is like the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. This is a policy limits case, whatever the policy is, right? And they'll be like, no, that's like, $450 or throw out a number. And it's just offered such an interesting perspective. It's like, that's what a jury thinks though, right? Like jurors don't know the standard value. And I really want to get more comfortable with, people always say the case is worth whatever you say it is. And I'm really trying to get more comfortable with that.
Have you tested it?
I have, because I had this fall case where someone was a fall risk and they let him get out of his bed to go use the restroom. Actually, it was this crazy case. It was supposed to go to trial. So yes, I did test it with some people. And I was like, what about, I'm going to ask for $10 million. What do you think? And they're like, that sounds reasonable. And then others were like, well, what does a case like that settle for? And I'm like, doesn't matter. If you were a juror, you don't get to know that information.
And I don't think jurors are going home and Googling that.
I never know. They're not supposed to.
Maybe I could see a couple people.
Yeah.
And then who knows if now they're influenced, like this is what cases of this matter. I
Right.
could actually see that,
Mhm.
but that's, I think, makes it even more important to push the limits.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's, to me, that whole thing is super fascinating. Like,
And then you have the big data where
right.
literally now you can know
Test
what
it.
the case is worth. Yeah. And that's really my biggest fear, I'd have to say, is like knowing how to value cases and making sure I'm valuing them correctly and not asking for too much or too little. But I've done big data once. It was a case that ended up settling, didn't go to trial. So haven't tested that at trial yet, but it is so crazy what you hear, how they predict, it's going to resolve for 155 million and the jury returns 155 million, like the exact number.
And in Michigan, can you ask for a certain value?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Michigan too, we don't have non-economic caps, except in some cases, like in med mal cases and things like that. Whereas in Colorado, we did. So it's kind of exciting, right? Because I could ask for millions and millions in a trucking wreck case and actually have the jury give it and potentially, be able to get it and not have that verdict reduced after.
I think you also can't be afraid to ask for the number. I think people feel that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one thing that was so interesting to me is with big data, you can test, if you ask for too little, they tend to think you're hiding something, right? Essentially what I'm saying is asking for too little can be worse than asking for too much. Because if I have a death case and I'm like, so I'm asking that you return a verdict of $500,000, they're like, what the fuck? $500,000? I was thinking like 10 million. What are they hiding? There must be bad facts that they're not telling us. So maybe it's worth a lot less now. Why did I think it was worth more?
I think people always assume that you're going to ask for more, like more than it's worth.
Yeah.
Right? Like people are always going to try to like go to like that far extreme. So if you're saying, hey, I want 500,000, they're like, okay, well then it's probably worth 300,000.
Right.
Like I think people, or maybe that's just me, but I always feel like people kind of add a little bit to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's like almost like, And if it's too low, I could see a lot of issues with that. But then the too high, they think you're a greedy lawyer.
Right.
So
yeah, and it's so crazy how different, what a wide range of values two people can have, let alone, 6, 12 people on the jury. Because I struggle with it as a lawyer, what is this case worth? And so I can't even imagine
and
how they come up with a number, obviously we give them the information to do that, but I can't imagine how uncomfortable that must feel. Because I feel it. If someone's like, what is this med mal case worth? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what these cases are typically worth. But that's what a juror is being asked to do, is like, what is this worth? And they have like no idea what an average trucking case is worth.
Well, it's kind of good for you to live that, because then you have that empathy of like, oh, this is how they feel. I also think it's so subjective, right? Like you have a juror that makes 50,000 versus a juror that, is a retired entrepreneur that's bored, that has, 200 million.
Yes.
Their concepts of money are like so vastly different, right?
Yes.
It's like, hopefully you have one of those, like, it's probably rare, but like some random super rich juror that's like, that's not enough, that's kind of what you want, right?
Right. I watched part of a trial. It was a truck accident trial in Michigan recently. It was like a month or so ago. A great lawyer named Bruce Inocencio. He was trying the case. He did an amazing voir dire, and he was trying to put into context, value and what a human life is worth. And he made some example. He asked a question like, okay, if there's a house that's burning down and there's a baby in one room and a pile of money in the other, who here would choose the baby? And you can only choose one, right? Everyone raises their hands. And he's like, okay, because that really tells you a lot about someone. If one potential juror was to raise their hand and be like, well, like how much money are we talking, But the everyday average person is going to say, of course I'm going to save the life because it's priceless. And it was just kind of funny though, because then he turns around and he's like, okay, just making sure, everyone here would choose the baby, not the 200 million. And someone goes, wait, how much did you say?
That's smart.
I know.
Well, that's Mike Morse did that with the whole
Did he?
Mona Lisa thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched that episode. That was a great one, too, where he gave like the sample opening or closing that he did.
Yeah, he stood up and did it.
That case. Oh, my gosh. It gives me chills thinking about it. Like beyond horrific, the facts of that case.
Yeah. No, I know. I cried. Like, I feel like I'm crying way too often on these episodes. It gets cut like half the time, too. I'm like, you got to cut that.
No.
Yeah, don't make me cry.
I'll try not to.
Okay. No, don't start talking about.
I have a sweet story that happened on the plane ride over here that I can tell you. Might make you cry, but it's more just like very weird. And I feel like I need to share it.
On air?
It wasn't involving me, so yeah, I can share it.
Okay, go.
But so I'm sitting on the plane. I always get the window seat because I usually fall asleep immediately.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could say that.
I can sleep so easily on planes. But I either fall asleep or if there's someone next to me, I like to chat with them, right?
It's
what we do.
You're so nice.
Wait, I forget that you're different like this.
I want
You're
everyone.
like, leave me alone. So, okay, so this is the one time that I decided to do work because I had a huge deadline. I literally had to work. I'm on my laptop, like crouched down because the person in front of me put their seat back. And I'm just like working and so out of the norm for me. I'm always sleeping or either chatting with someone really nice. And next to me is a woman who tells me when she gets on the flight, she's going down to Florida to see two of her sons graduate, different places. She's probably like 50s. And then next to her is a 75-year-old gentleman. He's dressed in a suit and he's all fancy. And I hear them chatting like the whole entire flight because I'm just sitting there working. And I feel weird because I'm such a social person. Like I feel weird for not engaging because, I'm not trying to be rude and I would love to chat with them, but it doesn't happen on this flight. And so we're getting close to landing. He's like kind of fumbling with the TV monitor and she's been helping him and they're sharing their whole life story and how he had like a falling out with his family, but he's trying to get past it because he's approaching death. And, he realizes it's not the time to hold grudges. And I know, I don't want to make you cry. Maybe it's more emotional than I thought. And
You're
then
about to cry.
I know. Well, it's a cute story. And then he goes, man, like, I never would have expected to meet a person like you. You were so nice. This has been the best flight I've ever been on. He goes, I feel compelled to give you something. And I'm like, my ears perk up. And I'm like, what's he going to give her? And he pulls out this envelope and he starts handing her $100 bills. Like, I can't make this up, right?
You're fucking...
I'm not. He gives her one. He goes, this is for you. I'm really proud of you on your new life. I think maybe she had just gotten divorced or something. And I'm like, oh my God, $100. Like, that's huge. It continues. And he goes, and this 100 is for your one son, Josh. And this one is for your son, Andrew. And I was like, I picked the wrong flight to work on. Like, what is happening? Can I get on this? It was so, and then she starts bawling. And meanwhile, I'm sitting like right next to her and they don't even acknowledge me. I'm just thinking like, I always get self-conscious. I was like, if I were her, I would get so self-conscious and I'd like look to see who's next to me and what they think of this whole interaction. But no, it was just this moment between them. And
was he hitting on her?
No, he wasn't. And he was like,
what had she talked about? Like, was she struggling financially?
I don't know. I didn't hear the whole conversation, but I told the story to someone else and they were like, something must have resonated in her story with him. But also like, do you think it was planned? Because who carries an envelope of money? Was he like...
Because he was traveling and he's old. So I could see how like old people are like, I got to go get cash out and I got to put it in my... I could see that.
Or maybe he was like, I want to do something nice. Christmas is coming and I'm going to give this to someone I feel deserves it. Or maybe it was so random.
Did he give her the whole envelope?
No. Okay. He took out the bills. I'm watching this whole thing happen.
How much money did he give her?
I think $400 after everything was said and done. And then they were talking about like how he had to make a connection or his next flight or something where he needed to use something on the Delta app. And she like took his phone and did the whole download for him. And he was like, you don't know how much I appreciate that. That would have taken me a day to do. And you're just the nicest person. I was like, I'm nice too.
But if you think about it, if you had interacted with them,
I know.
They wouldn't have had that deep conversation. And then she wouldn't have gotten the $400, which if she started bawling, because like if some guy starts handing me $400, like I would be like, no, thank you. Like, I would just be like,
I
I'm
agree.
really uncomfortable with this. Like, I don't think there's anything that I would tell them that would make them hand me for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
I thought of that too, because I would have instantly been like, oh my gosh, no, like I can't
No,
accept this.
right.
She didn't say that.
anyway, sorry guys. I swear this episode will get better. If it doesn't, it's Chrissy's fault.
Yeah, I was supposed to come prepared with the topic and
Yeah, so what's your topic?
Oh man. So I want to share something that people can use.
Perfect.
And I also think it's fun just to talk about our backgrounds.
Okay.
Like, I learned so much from you from this podcast, and I'm friends with you in real life, but
You
I
are.
learned so much on here. For example, I need more advice on how you discipline your kids, because that is a huge struggle for me.
Yeah. So I had a family member recently telling me that he was like, when your kids were little, they were a shit show. And like you guys were like anti-discipline. And I was like, no way in hell this is going to work. But this last time that I saw your kids, they're so well behaved. So it clearly worked. And I was like, okay, we were not anti-discipline. We were anti-hitting our children,
Yeah.
anti like punishments to some extent. I break that every now and then when I'm like really frustrated. But we just, I don't know, talk it out with them. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't think I'm like the best person. Like I try to be more of like natural consequences. Like that's not a ball. Like you shouldn't be throwing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to put that away. Or, oh, you keep hitting me. I have the right to be safe and I'm going to hold your arm down until you stop hitting me. Like I literally like had to do that with my kids sometimes. Like not in a hurtful way, but just like, I'm not going to let you hit me.
Yeah.
Right. We're pretty chill though.
I try to be chill, and I heard something that really stuck with me and made me think twice about when I'm mad and stuff. So it was, your kids hear your voice when they're deciding what to do when they get mad. And it's like, so if you scream immediately when you're mad, that's what they're going to do. And they're going to turn into little monsters.
That's how I will say mine do that. And I have to remind myself that like, I come from a Latin family. We all scream. Yeah. So like, I definitely yell at them. I'm just not the best at like, again, we didn't hit, we don't punish often, like take things away. We're more like natural consequences. Or we try to be like, okay, like you're not, I guess in a way it is a punishment, right? Like, okay, you're not behaving, like I'm not taking you to get ice cream because I just need to go home. Like you can't be out and about. I remember at some point I felt like I was punishing myself. Like, oh, now because they can't have ice cream, I can't have ice cream. So one day we were out to eat. They were not behaving. And I was like, hey, you know what? And I did punish them. I was like, I'm going to get myself ice cream, but I'm not getting it. And Marina was like, you're not going to do that. And I was like, watch me. I made them walk in the ice cream store with me. I got ice cream. I ate the whole thing.
Oh my God.
And none of them had ice cream. But you know what was crazy? None of them cried. None of them like
they're in denial, disbelief. They're like, is this really happening?
I think they were just like, wow, she really did that. I've also have heard though that like the worst thing you can do for a child is like be loving, but not set boundaries. Like being permissive and loving. Supposedly that's like almost worse or just as bad as like not loving and permissive. So it's like that, like kids need boundaries. So like, I think I'm very good at setting boundaries. So it's like, oh, you want to watch TV? I'm not letting you watch TV. And they can cry all day. Like, I'm just like, I hear you. I get that you're upset, right? I follow Dr. Becky.
Okay. I need to follow this.
She says this thing that I keep saying to my kids. And it's like, all emotions are welcome here, but all behaviors are not.
Interesting.
So like, you're allowed to be upset right now. I totally get that you're disappointed, but that doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful. Like you will not be disrespectful to me or the way that you're like lashing out. That's not okay. And I'm not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
So we in a weird way, I think we've been so busy for so long. Like we kind of treat them like adults. Like we talk a lot of things out.
Yeah.
You know,
I try to do that too. Treat them like an adult.
Yeah. I think it works.
Yeah. I just struggle with the punishment part because it's like going back to what you said, sometimes when you're punishing them with like the ice cream thing, you end up punishing yourself too. and you like never get a break. So if I say, you're not getting TV today, well, that kind of screws me because maybe that hour of TV time where they're seated, they're watching a movie was when I was going to get all my stuff done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, now we're all just like staring at each other and
yeah, I get it. The TV thing has been the whole technology thing has been such a struggle for us. It's much better lately, but now if they want to watch TV, the room has to be clean.
I like that.
And so now they know that if they're going to ask, when we homeschooled for a year, it was really hard because we worked from home, we homeschooled, and there was like, I don't know, like I feel like it was harder and they spent more time at home. But now there's no TV during the week. And on the weekends, because now they're not used to it, they actually don't ask for it as much as they used to. So we did notice a complete 180. My kids read a lot. My 2 boys read a lot. My daughter can't read, but my 2 boys read a lot.
Your daughter is 5?
7.
7. Okay. Yeah. Because my kids are 5 and they're just starting to learn how to read.
yeah. She's still learning how to read. Hopefully that reading thing will continue with her because my oldest reads a lot and I think that impacted the middle child. So hopefully it kind of, we have tons of books. My house, their room is full of books and it always has been. Even from before they could read. We just had a lot of books around. So
yeah, my kids are at that stage right now where everything they see, they'll be like, Mom, what's that say? What's it say? And they try to sound it out and it's so cute. And they usually can get it. But I have to be more mindful now of things around the house. For example, I have this coffee mug that says, bitch, please, I'm from Detroit.
My kids would love that.
And Charlotte comes up to me and she's like, Mom, what does this say? And I'm not going to lie to her, right?
No.
I need to teach her how to sound it out. And I was like, oh, it just says a word, let's go look at this. What does it say? And she's like, no, I want to know what that first word is. And I'm like, I can't use this mug anymore. I don't know.
Well, you follow me on social, so you know my kids.
Yes.
My kids, I guess one of them cussed at school the other day. It just slipped out and they were like, fuck. Nobody said anything.
Mine, I'll never forget the first day that Harper said fuck. And I think she was 3.
I think it's the cutest thing. I think it's funny. I mean, I don't know. I pick my battles. I'm like,
yeah,
you guys want to cuss, just don't cuss at school. And then one of them came home and was like, I accidentally cussed at school.
I know. So we were like, it didn't make any sense when this came up or why it came up when it did. But she goes, Mom, what's fucking? I was like, what? And, I didn't want to go too over the top and be like, it's a bad word, never say it. So I was like, oh, that's not a word. Where'd you hear that? And she's like, why do you say it to Daddy? I'm like, oh my God, you have heard me say it. You're randomly thinking about it. And then 10 days later, she'll ask me, what's this word?
I just always explain to them, look, there are things that are looked down upon. When you're a child and you cuss, it's looked down upon. So when you leave this house, do not put me in a position where I have to explain myself to people. Do not embarrass me. You don't use those words outside of this house.
Yeah.
You don't use them if you can't learn to use them in context. So the word fuck and fucking really took a long time that they could use it in context. I'm like, you're still not using it please don't say that. You're not allowed to use that word. But I didn't want words to have so much power, right? So I think it's funny because now that they get it, they're aware at school. And when my kids misbehave, I want them to misbehave at home. I want that to be the place that feels safe and nothing's necessarily taboo or off the table that we can't talk about it. But I also want them to learn there are things that outside of this house, shouldn't be talked about.
Sure.
Right? When you learn certain things, you don't go telling your little sister that Santa doesn't exist or whatever, more serious things, right? And there are sensitive topics, right? My daughter's been asking me a lot of questions lately when we're out in public that I'm like, can you please? The way people look. I know you're
home.
I know you're curious and I love that.
Yeah.
But can you just wait till we get home?
Yes.
And not when someone's right next to us.
Oh my God.
Yes. She's been doing that a lot lately. And I think she's starting to get it. I feel when you're little, it's normal to be embarrassed by.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm like such a cool mom. My kids don't agree.
I know. I feel like that too.
And I'm like, legitimately, like, I feel like I'm pretty cool.
Yes.
And they're like, no, you're not.
It's so funny to see them get embarrassed. I only have girls, but just girls in general, I feel like they get embarrassed a lot.
My
At least
daughter's
mine do.
too little. How old are your kids?
They're 5, but
They get embarrassed already? Not
One-
by you.
Not by me, no.
Oh, just in general. Yes, they
I'll
do
say
get more
things or I'll be
embarrassed.
like, come over here, and they'll be like, Mom.
Yeah, they are. So you have twin girls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so jealous. That's what I wanted. Thanks to the Olsen twins.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine are fraternal, so they're completely different. Like one's
So
blonde,
supposedly
one's
the
brunette.
Olsen twins are too, but I don't think they are.
I heard that. I don't think they are.
They're not. But what's crazy, I don't know why I'm like so fascinated by this idea of twins, but they technically, when they're identical, have the same freaking personality. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And like they've done studies of like twins that are separated at birth, identical twins, and they go in like oftentimes they go and do the same thing, like same jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I know. I get anxiety about them being separated. I hear so many people separate their kids like in different classes.
yes.
Or they go to different colleges and it just like hurts my heart because I'm like, they're little besties and
Yeah.
what would they do without each other?
I think it's good. Like my boys are really close, but from an early age, we were like, they probably should go to different schools. Because initially they were 2 grades apart. Then COVID hit and then kindergarten, I just had him do kinder again because Zoom on kinder, it was like, it just he didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I had him like redo it in person. So then that created a gap. But when they were 2, when it was like kinder and second, we were like, they would see each other at recess. Like we wanted them to have.
Oh, you wanted them very separate.
I wanted them separated.
I don't want you guys to ever see each other during the day. Separate schools.
I think that they need to be their own selves.
Yeah.
And I come from like a lineage on my mom's side where there's a lot of like unfairness and a lot of like jealousies and competition. And like I really didn't want them to have that. So I read Siblings Without Rival. I can't pronounce it.
Rivalry?
Yes.
I need to read that.
Read it. So good. But I think it's really important for kids to know like you're not created equal. You're not the same. Like, but you should cheer for one another. Like my kids are very different. And even when they're like, oh, but he got this or he got that. Like
I deal with that nonstop with twins.
I will not like, just because I buy one a pair of shoes, if the other one doesn't need one, I don't buy it for them. I'm like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you're the same person? You're identical. So, okay, you're going to start playing soccer. And then they're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. You're individual kids with individual needs. I love you for who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who do you love more? I can't love either of you more than anything else. Like, even each other.
I love that.
Like,
if I would have heard this sooner, I would save a lot of money because I'm always buying 2.
I think it's even more important with twins. It's like, I found this because I thought you would really like it. Why didn't you get me one? Because you're not into this.
Oh my gosh, I literally deal with that on like a daily basis. Like Harper got this, why don't I get this? And then I feel guilty. I'm like, am I showing more affection to one? But that's why I love what you're saying is like emphasizing they're different people and different needs.
And this is what you like. Like, I saw this and bought it for you because I know that why didn't you get me one? Because you're different people. Like, this is what I thought he would like. And why did you take my brother and get ice cream? You've gotten ice cream before without him. Like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Like, I happen to be with him. Like, I'm like, really, because I just don't want, I've seen what I can do. Like, my mom comes from like, there are 6 of them. And I've seen what all that can do. And I'm just like very scared of it. So I'm just doing the opposite of like what they all did.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've struggled with twins in the sense that I always feel like I need to be doing the same with the other. But sometimes I'll end up doing nothing. Like I would love to just like go get my nails done with one of them. But I feel like I always have to bring both of them. So then I end up going by myself, things like that.
I think maybe if I were you, if I had twins, I'd just love to have twin girls. I would say like, hey, I want to do something special with each of you separately. Like this day I'm going to do something with you. This day I'm going to do something with you. And then that day you're going to do the nails. And then you go do whatever other thing it is that you want for that kid. If you don't want them to pick, right? Because then if they pick, then you're not going to get your nail day, right? But I think it's all in the delivery and in like making them feel secure and that you love them for who they are.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Because if you don't, then what happens is the moment you show affection over a kid because they're like really passionate about something, then they start to feel shame for not being passionate about that thing. My kids are really different.
Yeah.
So like I felt like I had to deal with that very early on because it was very clear that they were so different. You know?
My twins are really different. Like they have different body types. Like one has a body for dance and one's more like soccer.
Yeah.
And different personalities for sure. So.
And that's something that I even talk to them about. Like when we're talking about the differences, I'm like, well, you don't look the same, do you? No. Yeah. Okay. You don't like the same things, right? Like you like broccoli, you like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful. One thing you'll notice is that they will actually become really proud when it's something that is so tailored to them because then they feel seen and heard. And then as long as you're doing that individually with each of them, then they don't take offense. I think where they would take offense is if it's like all the love is going to one.
Yeah.
And there's no attention put on the other one. Right? Like, I don't know. That's
that makes
my
sense.
take.
I can't wait to try this.
I mean, who knows? Maybe like 20 years from now, none of them will talk to me. And so I don't know. I'm doing the best I can.
I did forget to ask you, or have been meaning to ask you, you were homeschooling them.
Yeah.
And you're not anymore.
Yeah.
What's the reason for the switch? Because I thought of you every single morning when I'm flying around the house trying to rush to get them dressed and out. And I'm like, this is why Maria homeschools. I need to be homeschooling.
Honestly, it's been fucking hell to do the morning things. Basically, what happened was our oldest wanted to try out going back to school. And we had always said, like, we're not going to force this on you. And he kind of wanted to try, kind of didn't. We weren't like super happy with the teacher that they had and like the system that was put in place. So we thought, okay, it's probably best to just like put him back into that environment. And what's really interesting though is that he had trouble at most schools that we had put him in terms of like the social element. Like he just didn't love the social element. But I think this time because he knew that if he didn't like it, he had the choice to come back home. He's like thrived.
Scary and
yeah, I think it just made him really secure knowing like, I'm going to give this my all because and again, it's a social thing because he gets straight A's. Like he's like such a like standard, like typical traditional school kid. Right? So he's like, if I don't like it, like I know that I always have the choice to come back home. So the first day he comes home and let's just say I don't want to share too much. He had a tough transition the first week. And I was like, look, you got to stick it out at least a semester. Like you have to.
Yeah.
And by the like second week, he was fine. And he was still kind of like, I would rather homeschool, but I'll finish the semester. And then like as we got further and further, he was like, they're equal. And now he's like, I absolutely do not want to be homeschooled.
Awesome.
So like he's
good for him.
He has such a great group of friends. He's excelling. He's like great. Doing great. The other two started off being homeschooled this year. And when I was doing research, I realized that I needed to have them evaluated, both of them, through a doctor. Like when they do like all this testing, there's like an IQ component. Although that's not what I was testing for. I was testing for dyslexia specifically because my middle had a dyslexia diagnosis when he was in first grade. But then everybody was like, no, he's not dyslexic anymore. He's reading. He does like great in school, whatever. Long story short, they both my daughter came back dyslexic. And my son came back with dyslexic tendency, so no longer an actual diagnosis. So we put him in a special school for kids with dyslexia. And they love it. It's like a tiny environment. My daughter has 2 classmates. That's it.
Oh my gosh.
It's really rare to catch it that early. So we only caught it early because I had a gut feeling. And it was funny because my husband's like, she is not dyslexic. I was like, okay, watch. I was so sure. And he was like, damn, you were right. Because it was the same issues that Luca was having then. So I was like, there has to be something here. And then we were in Mexico. So he got support through the school, but there wasn't an option like there is in the US.
Yeah.
So long story short, his classroom has like 12. Her classroom has only 2 other kids, but they're like, they love it and they're thriving and they're happy to go. But every single morning, I fucking hate my life. And they're far. They're far away.
Oh my god.
So it's like, yeah, it takes us a good hour and 30 minutes
to get to school,
to get back home. Like total time from, because it's 2 different drop-offs.
Man, that is far.
Yeah. So
would you consider moving to be closer to the school?
I just don't want to move. Like, no, I don't like the area that the school's in, and or even getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like another potential move in the horizon, but we'll see.
Yeah. In Florida still or somewhere else?
Potentially. We'll see. I don't know yet. So either within Florida or not in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know yet.
Back to Mexico?
Absolutely
not. Back to Mexico.
No. It'll still be U.S. because like I have to do this, and doing it from Mexico's. Yeah, traveling from Mexico's tough. I don't want to do that. Okay, now you see why conversations go so sideways.
Yes.
Yeah. Some people have said to me that I need to be more focused. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. This is how we do it. There are conversations like you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. Just so that if you guys haven't met Chrissy, she's like, am I pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Okay. She's like the opposite. Like I have a resting bitch face all the time. She has like the friendliest, more like the most, like you feel like you've known her your whole life. Like you don't, but like that's how you feel. So just to like, if I'm sure that actually comes through your voice, but in case it hasn't, I wanted to let people know.
Well, thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
So sweet.
Thank you so much to Chrissy for everything she shared with us today. If you found the story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.